Hi, my name is Amanda Fox, and this is my presentation for Inclusive Leadership for AEP 855 Educational Leadership. So first, we need to know what is inclusive leadership. And taken from the definition from this website, inclusive leadership is the practice of leadership that carefully includes the contributions of all stakeholders in the community or organization. The first resource that I looked at for inclusive leadership was an article that I found online from a magazine called Profiles in Diversity, and the title of the article was Moving the Dial, Measuring Inclusive Leadership. I thought this was a really good article to kind of break down the different parts of inclusive leadership. In the first part, it talked about the leader having to lead themselves. Leaders are aware that unique differences are what make unique perspectives. The leader understands that it is natural to have biases, but tries to minimize them by having open conversations and being open to new learning. The leader must model the way through their actions by being open to new learning and bettering themselves. So this section mostly talked about how the leader needs to be self-aware of their own biases, like I said here, but also trying to overcome those by really pinpointing what those biases might be and how they could overcome those biases. And while I read this, it really made me think of one of the last classes that I took from Fort Hays was cultural diversity, and talking about how we need to be aware of what our opinions may be, but that we should try to overcome those opinions. Next, the leader needs to focus on relationships. Leaders build great relations through encouragement and acknowledgement of accomplishments. They change their style to the needs of others and encourage their employees to excel professionally. So this made me think of a lot of the different leadership styles that we have studied throughout the semester here, throughout our course, that there may not always be one set way to handle a situation or a person, but you really do have to change your style to meet the needs of your employees. And I thought that this section also stayed really positive, talking about how leaders needed to be encouraging and really take note of accomplishments that their employees have made, and just get a good relationship and build relationships through those positive interactions. And then finally, it talked about the leader being in charge of leading the culture of the building. Inclusive leaders build a climate of trust and respect in the workplace. Employees feel comfortable taking risks and contributing ideas because they feel comfortable. Leaders share responsibility when something isn't going right, but they also share praise when good things happen. This again made me really think of being in the classroom and how, as teachers, we want our students to feel comfortable to take risks and feel comfortable in sharing their ideas, and how you really have to set up that culture in your classroom really from day one to let students know that this is a place where everyone is going to be respected, and it's okay if you make mistakes. Those are just things that we can learn from. So the same thing needs to happen with inclusive leaders. They need to build that culture within their building. So next I have a video that I found that really focuses on inclusive leadership and diversity.
the difference between diversity and inclusiveness, we actually think there's three dimensions, which is diversity, inclusiveness, and inclusive leadership. And to some extent, there's a journey and a connection between the three. Diversity, in my mind, is the mix. You have to value diverse perspectives, and to have diverse perspectives, you have to have a mix of diverse perspectives. Inclusiveness is making the mix work. Inclusiveness is about valuing those and understanding how to get them to work together to achieve better outcomes. The third element that I alluded to was inclusive leadership, and to me that's an enormous need today, which is leaders who not only realize the importance of diversity, the mix, they value making the mix work, but they themselves are capable. They have a passion for difference. They understand that leading a group means making difference safe, inviting diverse perspectives, understanding how to manage the friction and the dissent that can come with managing diverse perspectives, and leading the group to better outcomes. I think inclusive leadership does not happen by accident. And I think, in fact, Dr. Javedon here at Thunderbird talks extensively about the global mindset and how there are three components: psychological component, the intellectual component, and the social component. I think the intellectual component of inclusive leadership or having a global mindset can be taught, the intellectual component. The psychological aspect, do I have a passion for difference? Do I really want to meet you where you are, and do I care about where you're coming from? And do I want to take the time and really be curious about what's driving, why you think what you think? There's some element of that I look for in people, and if it's not there, I know I can help it along, but I don't know that I can teach it.
Okay, so to review, she talked about three main parts of inclusive leadership. The first was diversity, which she referred to as the mix, and really valuing diverse perspectives. The next one was inclusiveness, making the mix work, getting them to work together, which I think goes along with the article that I referenced earlier, and how you really have to build those relationships and set that foundation so that people feel comfortable with taking risks and speaking their opinion. And then last, the actual inclusive leadership, making the workplace safe. Talked about that several times. And then managing the differences, which was something that I guess I had never really thought about. But when you do value diversity, you are going to have to think about the hardships that might come along with that, with so many different people and trying to get all those different people to work together. So, when I'm thinking about the video and the article that I found, and also including the textbook that we read in our course of course, inclusive leadership, um, and I'm thinking about the five practices of effective leaders, I'm thinking about how I can use this in my setting, which is in a library. I'm a library media specialist. So all of these five practices of effective leaders can just go hand in hand with the job that I have in the library, because I work with so many different people. I work with teachers, I work with students, I work with other librarians, and so this really can be used in any aspect of my job. When working with my my clerk, some libraries have clerks, some have more than one, some don't have any, but always when you're managing people, the inclusive leadership is how I would want to manage my library, and just having those clerks feel as though they are being heard, um, wanting them to feel like their ideas matter, and if they have an idea, to be able to come to me and tell me, hey, I think that we should try this, or I think this isn't working, maybe we should do this instead. Working with the school staff, the librarian works with all teachers or principals or anybody who's on the school staff. So being able to work with all those different and diverse populations of staff members is such an important thing to have to do. Again, working with students, so many different students that come in and out of our building every single day, and when they come into the library, I want them to feel like their ideas matter, and that they have a say in what goes on in their school library. And then also working with other librarians in the district, we really do collaborate. We meet monthly, and it's just a great way to talk to other professionals who we may not see all the time but have wonderful ideas, and to be able to share and contribute at those meetings really shows the leadership that you could have even at a district setting. So some challenges of inclusive leadership: it is a process. It's not something that you can just start one day and expect the next day for everything to be running smoothly. You really have to be able to put those foundations in place for people to feel safe and want to take those risks. Some people may be resistant to the change at first. It may feel awkward to them. It may not be how other employers have handled things in the past, but they need to know that this is how things are going to help for everybody in the situation. As a leader, you must be willing to recognize your own personal weaknesses and make sure that you address those, and be willing to say when you're wrong, be willing to take the blame, and also give praise to the staff, not taking all the praise for yourself. And then last, you must be willing to put the time in from the beginning to get everybody on the same page and to make sure that everyone is on board, and just to get them to buy into the ideas that you have and what you want to do. So here's my bibliography page. I found a lot of really good resources online. Thanks for watching.